You have to be careful about making a weird show or watching a weird show.
Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. Joined today, as I often am, by the omnipresent Giles Edwards
Hello.
and by our special combination co-host and guest, Alex Kittle. Alex has written rather extensively for 366 Weird Movies, but also works for the Brattle Theater in Boston, which we'll ask her about a little, and is a prolific movie artist and zinester, but is mainly here to talk about Re-Animator and her contributions to the new Re-Animator box set. So, hi, Alex.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Did we miss anything in your introduction?
Well, this is just, the Brattle Theater's in Cambridge. It's not in Boston, but
Oh,
I'll allow it.
to us, it's Boston. Well, let's
Okay,
go.
I'll give you that.
I can say anyone outside of Eastern Massachusetts, if they've heard of Cambridge, I'll be impressed.
We're literally next to Harvard University. Like, it's not obscure.
Oh yeah, it's also very near a bigger, aquarium having city. But yes, Cambridge. My sister went to MIT.
I guess if that's
so.
your priority, we don't have an aquarium. Also in Cambridge.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's why I know Cambridge is.
Yeah,
Okay,
on
well,
the street.
let's, before we get started on Re-Animator and some other stuff, let's just go through a little bit of weird movie news specifically that dropped this week. Can you guys see the screen?
Oh yes.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Very excited. All right. So, our first item is a movie that still may not come out, but had some significant news this week because it's. Giles, first off, do you want to describe briefly what we're looking at? Giles,
All right, sure. We've got we've got a great color scheme that is jumping around maroons, deep purples, some teals. There is an assembly of kind of punk-looking hooligans in the background, getting a sort of a futuristic vibe from this. But the main image taking up a good 60% of the frame here is a well-mustachioed gentleman with a serious expression. He's got a double row leather-looking collar thing with studs around it. He's got a sort of upper chest shoulder plate of at least in this lighting, looks a great deep purple, has a spray painted style anarchy symbol, has traces of a cape I might be able to see there, and some arm guards or epaulette sort of things with spikes coming out. And I guess it is worth mentioning the impressive mullet that this gentleman has his hair done up as.
right. All right. And it is.
I thought you weren't going to say it. I was like, excuse me.
This is.
And it's Michael Fassbender.
It is Michael Fassbender, and it's it's actually like a YouTube still. It looks pretty good for that. But so what happened is that this week there was sort of leaked a sizzle reel for Kung Fury 2, the feature-length sequel to Kung Fury, which was about 30 minutes long, which has been in development for, I don't know, like 15 years or something. It's been hung up, but they leaked 10 minutes of footage onto the internet, kept it up for, I think, about 3 hours, for long enough to everybody to catch it, and all the news companies, Variety and so forth, to see it and contact the director to see if it was legitimate. And of course, it is legitimate. What we can gather about it, it's David Sandberg returns as the Kung Fu cop Kung Fury. He's now joined by Michael Fassbender with this magnificent mullet, and they are again fighting Hitler, this time joined by the President of the United States, played by... Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold
Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger.
So yes, and Variety called what the footage they saw insane and bonkers. I saw this reported like on Twitter/X and other places, but didn't catch the footage myself. I'm guessing neither of you caught the 10-minute footage.
I missed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was already gone by the
It's, I
time.
mean, the description is great.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess I'm a little confused about I mean, it's been in legal limbo for 5 years or something because of financial reasons, like an investor not paying, breach of contract or something. But I don't know enough about, you hear those kinds of stories, and sometimes these things do eventually get resolved and come out, but sometimes they just kind of go away and like we might never see this. But I didn't really fully understand what the legal issues were and how likely they might actually get this movie released eventually.
yeah. The problem is apparently it's pretty much finished, So they
Yeah, like they were in post when the financial issue, the investor pulled out or something.
yeah, there's some kind of legal dispute which I am not 100% clear on, but I think this is a deliberate leak and an attempt to put some pressure
Mhm.
on to get this thing
Yeah,
released.
I would guess that too.
Hoping it works.
I
Giles,
hope it
any
works.
any
Yeah.
thoughts?
Oh no, I'm also hoping it works. The title rang a bell, and yes, I was reminded that. Oh boy, 3.5 years ago, I had the pleasure of watching and reviewing the original half-hour short movie. That if this is more of the same with those kinds of people involved, it would be a disservice to human culture not to have this released broadly.
And
Well, I
that's
guess I didn't realize this. The original short had played Cannes
yeah,
when it first debuted. So I guess the leak coming right before the festival, maybe they're trying to use that as extra kind of almost not marketing per se, but just kind of getting it in people's faces more with the relation to the festival.
right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, if there are no more comments on that, I'll go to the other three pieces of really short news we have. First is we had talked about this before. Megadoc, Mike Figgis
Oh
was on set for the production of Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis last year and shot a bunch of footage with nobody knowing until later, although it was authorized. But they kind of sprang it on us after the movie had already been released that there was also a behind the scenes feature documentary. And it is now has a distributor, so we will see it as we knew we would. It has Francis Ford Coppola's blessing. It's actually being distributed by his nephew's company. They have promised reporters that it is a warts and all type of movie, not just a puff piece. I think people would be really most interested to see it as kind of a train wreck production, which there was a lot of crazy news coming out as it was being filmed. So we're kind of hoping that it's not too sanitized, but that will come out soon. Any thoughts before I move on? From either of you? Apparently no.
I'll be real. I actually haven't seen Megalopolis, so on a personal level, not particularly. I'm assuming it's going to be maybe a bit of a Lost in La Mancha kind of experience as a documentary, just because it took about as long to get made. But yeah, without
Oh,
seeing the film, the documentary is kind of lost on me.
Yeah, I guess a happier ending than Lost in La Mancha, though, and that we did get a Megalopolis as opposed to, yeah, when was that Gilliam thing? It was
Well,
what?
We got a movie.
the man who killed Don Quixote,
Yeah, that
also starring
happened,
Adam
yeah, well
Driver.
after,
That's the
yeah.
link.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
I
love
know.
this.
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
we eventually got the. It was also with Adam Driver, no less, was the man who shot Don
Yeah,
Quixote. So wow.
exactly. So he's got a very specific niche he's filling of various old directors' long gestating projects. I actually really liked the eventual Man Who Killed Don Quixote. I'm like
Yeah.
Terry Gilliam is a problematic fave for me. But yeah, so I've been thinking of the projects a little bit similar for different reasons, but in that way.
All right. Very good. Next item. Ban Gi or Gi Ban. I think it's Ban Gi. Ban Gi. has a new movie coming out at Cannes. We usually don't talk about Cannes, but we talked about this particular movie before. So I wanted to mention it is a late entry into the Cannes Film Festival. It's called Resurrection. We got a small teaser, which I will put up on the website for it. And it's a very interesting synopsis that I have from Variety describes it as the story of a woman whose consciousness enters an eternal time zone during a medical procedure. Trapped in a dreamscape, she encounters an android corpse and attempts to awaken it by recounting stories. As the android traverses these stories, its senses begin to awaken, drawing a surreal journey of self-discovery. If you know Bangi's movies, they're very minimalist and they feature some really amazing camera work. A Long Day's Journey into Night had a tracking shot that was like 45 minutes long. It was just amazingly choreographed, and his other movies all, this is only like his third movie, but they always feature some amazing camera work, and you can see a bit of that in the teaser trailer that dropped. I'm sort of excited about this. I don't know if anybody else is, but I definitely am.
I'll admit it wasn't on my radar until you had mentioned it yesterday, and now I'm psyched. Like that was enough. The little teaser looks beautiful. I like the concept. And I actually haven't seen his earlier films, so it was a reminder I need to catch up with his work.
Mm, yes, you do. Giles, any thoughts?
I do.
It was a very pretty teaser trailer that revealed. No, I didn't know anything I didn't know what the movie was about until you gave me that description there. I guess is how ambiguous the
Yeah,
trailer.
the teaser's very loose.
Okay, and the last piece of news we have is about Flesh of the Gods, a Panos Cosmatos vampire movie that we have discussed before. We're looking forward to it, obviously. The news is that Elizabeth Olsen has joined the cast. So that's still in pre-production. We don't obviously know much about it. Kristen Stewart was already attached, and the male lead escapes me at the moment. Who?
Oscar Isaac.
It's Oscar Isaac.
Yeah. So we don't have much to talk about that, but I assume everyone's excited for it.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess it may be worth mentioning. It says here the film is written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote Seven, based on a story he wrote with Cosmatos. So I bet it'll be violent.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of like, all I need to know is like beautiful people, vampires. I believe it's set in the 80s. I know the lighting's going to be impeccable, and I know it's going to be not what you expect. Like I feel like Cosmatos's films kind of take big swings in a way that I really appreciate.
He sure does. All right. So we're looking forward to that. So those are four things all coming up in the future, but something that is in theaters right now, probably the weird movie in theaters this week is this one. Giles, would you do quickly this movie?
Okay. Very fairly shadowy, dark poster here with right hand side having soft blue color motif. Left hand side, I'll start with her. That's face, I believe, of a young brunette, and she is tinged in red lighting. Very wide eyed, but sort of hard to decipher what her expression may be indicating. And the right hand 2/3 ish, we see the eye of the protagonist fellow there, and I believe sort of Picasso style cross cut. There is an open mouth that certainly does not look like the expression of a happy individual. So it's all rather mysterious and unclear what exactly is going on and what relationship the face on the left has to do with the slightly perception altered face on the right hand side.
Okay. And it's called Hurry Up Tomorrow. I have seen this trailer multiple times in theaters. We will have it again. You can see it at the official, we'll have a link to the official website where you can watch it in a couple versions. From what I can gather, it's somehow incorporates an insomniac pop star, Jenna Ortega, Barry Keoghan, and the tagline, "Reality lies deeper than you think." It does look fairly surreal from the trailer, but of course can't gather too much for it. One thing, uh, last time I checked, I had not seen any advanced reviews for it, which seems odd and maybe a little worrisome, but we just have the trailer to go off. Did you guys watch the trailer and have any thoughts about it? Giles.
I
I
watched the
didn't get a
trailer.
chance to watch the trailer. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Oh, I watched the trailer. It started with the female lead um, burning down a house or some other type of building, and then going on to the unclear reminiscences or perceptions of the pop star who is the lead here. So it looks kind of melodramatic and kind of surreal. It's Lionsgate, and they can hew one way or another with those elements as they traditionally have. So I guess speaking as a contributor to 366, I hope they hew more toward the surreal than the melodramatic, or go very far in both directions. Could be interesting too.
okay. And Alex said she
This is
hadn't
the one
seen.
with the weekend, right? That's the pop star. This is the one with the weekend. Am
Uh,
I misremembering?
I
Like that's the pop star element, and he did the music.
He could be. His
Am I wrong?
name is
Kelly,
I
no,
don't
you're
listen
right.
to the
The
weekend,
weekend.
but
No, you're.
okay.
Yep.
I just no one else is mentioning it, but I feel like for some people that would be the thing that would interest them the most about the movie for those who are fans, because I know he's got I know he's got a fan base, especially like he's into movies, right? And his work uh often is inspired by film, is my understanding. So I feel like for some people that would be exciting to have that him like leading a film.
well.
And I assume doing the music if he's playing a pop star.
Yeah.
He tricked me because he's apparently going under his real name, so I didn't know.
Right. No, that's why I paused too, because I was like, I actually don't know his real name.
It's Abel Abel
But
Tesfaye, or I'm not. I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, if it had
Tefe,
said
yeah,
The
I'm not sure how to say
Weeknd,
that.
I would have mentioned that. I've heard of The
Well,
Weeknd.
that's interesting too, because maybe they don't want that to be the way that everyone thinks of it. Like maybe they want it to be viewed on its own terms, which I understand as well.
I think the marketers would have. He must have insisted on using his own name because the marketers definitely
Exactly.
would have wanted that.
Yeah, I feel like that would just be an easy sell, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So I did not realize that.
It was like
Okay,
the only thing I knew about the movie.
it's in theaters this week. We'll find out more when the reviews come out, I guess, and maybe I'll see it. But in the meantime, let's go to a couple of uh, physical media releases we're going to get through very quickly because we have limited familiarity with it. Better Man. Giles, you just describe this spread here, if you would, for us.
Sure thing. We'll start. We've got a Blu-ray thing here, and unlike many Blu-ray covers, Blu-rays often come with the sleeve over it, so you have something to further damage for your collecting purposes. This one actually opens up and reveals a sort of slice of a Rolling Stone poster mock-up for the main character. And once you extract the Blu-ray case proper, you can flip it open. There are spots for 2 discs on it, and behind those spots, it looks like there's a lineup of specific character stills flanking either side of what looks like a large gathering of lights and people and maybe a vehicle tucked away in there. So this has a Blu-ray. I'm going to guess it's probably a 4K and Blu-ray disc
Yeah.
in this special edition. Excuse me, 4K Ultra HD disc in this special edition physical media release.
And you are correct. It's a combination 4K UHD and Blu-ray. The movie is Better Man. It is the notorious, I don't know, Robbie Williams as a chimp biopic. Robbie Williams, of course, huge pop star in Britain, not very well known in the United States. Um, I didn't see this movie. Giles didn't see this movie. Pretty sure Alex didn't see this movie. Shane Wilson reviewed it for us. He liked it, but he didn't seem to think it was weird enough. Whereas most mainstream reviewers were kind of going on and on about how bananas it was. So that
Oh,
just shows what our standards are, I guess.
yeah, I
I was
think
gonna say, yeah, our perception's very different.
yeah, I read his review and it looks like, this is a normal musical biopic, and oh, there happens to be a simian as the main character, and like, okay, so once you get over that, then
Yeah, it
everything's
seemed like
normal.
otherwise it's kind of going expected beats, right?
But
Although I will say almost everyone I know who's seen this movie, it's everyone was like, wow, that's a lot better than I expected. Like, I think it's benefiting from people having low expectations. And I will say too, I have to say one thing that this keeps coming up in discussion of this movie. So I have not seen it, and I'm not going to pretend like I like know a lot about Robbie Williams or was a big fan, but everyone keeps saying how no one in America knows him, but personally, maybe it's just my age. But when I was in middle school and like still listening to kind of like popular music, like the radio, he had a big hit called Millennium because I was in middle school during Y2K. So I was like, oh yeah, Robbie Williams, the Millennium guy. Like to me, that's someone whose name I always knew just because in my mind, he was a one-hit wonder when I was a kid. I understand that's not his actual legacy. But I was surprised at the amount of people who were like, I have absolutely no idea who this man is. I've never heard of him. So I didn't really register that he truly does have that thing where like the ocean really divides his fame.
Well, I was going
Yeah.
to actually ask you if you'd heard of him because I have been asking
Yeah.
everybody if they've heard of him. You're the first one who has. It's probably your age.
I don't know. Maybe that song wasn't as popular as I remember it being. Like I just remember that, they play it at school dances when I was a kid. It just is one of those ones I remember really well. And there were a few like millennium related pop songs of that era. And I think like I was exactly the age group that would have heard all those songs. And then I do also know he was in the band called Take That, like a pop band, which I mostly know because there's the television show Dairy Girls has an
Right.
episode about this and they talk about him. So that was just kind of like I learned that later.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, even for people who know him, in Britain, he is like, known as much as Madonna or I don't know who's big, Taylor Swift, but here,
Yes, Greg, what are the young people listening to these
what
days?
do the young
Yeah,
people?
I wouldn't know.
Is it still Frank Sinatra? Because he was pretty big. So that's Better Man. Huge set for fans. We haven't seen it though, so I'd like to see it, but I just didn't get the opportunity. Here's
I'm
one
curious.
that is a new special edition release, only available from uh, I think it's Lionsgate's website. Giles, describe the cover quickly. Well,
Sure, we've got a cool little, it's like a cyber sepia tone here. It's largely going from a bright white to a dark pinkish mechanical steel looking thing. It is a picture of, we'll say a young woman, shoulder length hair. Looks like she's wearing a nice dress there. She has her head tilted in consideration of something in the upper middle distance, and a distinguishing feature being her right eye. There is a gap in the normal looking otherwise flesh, revealing a presence beneath, such that the eye is much larger. It is in a sort of broken gap kind of thing, and there's some cracking going up her forehead. So the face is the face looks broken in a way and revealing a entity beneath that obviously has implications for people who are familiar with this title, and unfortunately I am not. Oh, I guess it's also worth mentioning the title of the film is done up as a bit of stitchwork with a needle crossing underneath as a nice underline at the end of the sewing segment.
right, and that title is May, which is a horror movie from about 2002, yep, and it is a sort of a horror movie slash character study of a young woman, and I know, or I believe at least, that Alex is quite the fan of this movie. Am I incorrect or correct?
I love this movie. Jazz, you gotta watch it. It's so good. Yeah, I'm was gotta be even just to briefly chat about it because I really love this film and it was an early like horror for me getting into horror movie as a genre, which I didn't really do until my like mid 20s. It was sort of an early fave. Angela Bettis is the star. The one thing I will say about this cover, the art is really beautiful, but I don't really think it looks like Angela Bettis. It kind of glams her up a little bit because she's pretty distinctive looking. Some people might know her from she's in one of the Carrie remakes. Uh, I think the Brian Fuller one. But it's yeah, it's interesting. And actually it's funny because it links to what we're going to talk about next, because I do actually think she's a little bit of there's some kind of Frankenstein related stuff going on. I don't want to spoil if people haven't seen it, but basically she is a very shy, very troubled young woman who is having, she's going through a lot, but she's by herself, so people don't really get it. And she has extreme social anxiety and has trouble relating to people. And then over time, it's about different relationships she forms. And she basically eventually decides that she kind of wants to create a perfect person, a perfect like partner for herself by gathering bits and pieces of other people to form one new person. So it's got a little bit of a slasher, a little bit of a Dr. Frankenstein type of thing. She's not a doctor. She stitches them together. That's why there's this sewing. And there's a lot of doll imagery, which I think is this image here, what's peeking from behind her eye, I believe is meant to be a doll's eye. Because there's just a lot of stuff with dolls and porcelain dolls and stuff related to her childhood. Sorry, I'm trying not to be spoilery, but it's great. It's kind of funny. It's a little bit of a dark comedy. It's got a great like supporting cast, like Jeremy Sisto in it and Anna Faris, kind of funny. You don't expect her to be in a horror movie, but she's one of the supporting characters. And I believe it was Lucky McKee's first solo feature as a writer director. And it's a really strong debut in my opinion.
No, I think
So
so.
watch it.
One thing I found interesting about this release is it's from something, it's a Vestron video, which I remember, and VHS back in the days. I didn't know they were still around when May came out.
Okay, I was
But
wondering
Yeah, I
why the
recognize the
word
logo and I
restaurant
was like,
sounded
really?
familiar.
but regardless,
Yeah. I guess maybe they were bought by Lionsgate, I
yeah,
guess.
probably. But regardless, they've put out these series of special editions, and they're pretty elaborate. They're up to number 32. This is the first one I've ever heard of, so they've been doing it pretty quietly. Putting out kind of
Yeah.
stuff that you'd expect from Arrow or Vinegar Syndrome. It's a pretty elaborate set. It's got three separate audio commentaries and about eight featurettes with interviews. And I'd never heard of it, this series.
Sorry, can I say one thing?
Sure.
I just learned this from looking at the special features of this. I found this a really just like fun fact. One of the editors of May was Ryan Johnson, like of Looper and Poker Face and Knives Out. This was one of his first jobs
Huh.
before he made his debut feature Brick. I had no idea. I love Ryan Johnson. I love this movie. And I noticed it because he does one of the commentaries on this new release. So I'm really interested to check that out.
Very cool. All right. So yeah,
Fun facts.
I think I hadn't heard of it because of it's one of those things where they only sell these editions on the Lionsgate website. So if they don't get a lot of exposure, but it's
Oh, I see.
interesting that they have they're up to number 32 in this series, and this is the first time I've ever heard of them. And we cover Blu-ray releases every week. So um, so we have a
And
few,
maybe they're not doing their job too well.
yeah. Um,
Maybe they just want to be really cool, you know? It's like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Glad that
You
it's
guys
right
just
out
weren't cool
there.
enough until now.
if it's a limited edition that sells out, all their copies, their 1,000 copies or however many, I guess they don't need wider exposure. But
Yeah.
um,
True.
We have just a few minutes left in this session. I think we can come back and talk about Re-Animator fully. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but before
I
then,
sorry.
let's let Alex talk about some of her other projects because I know you recently did a Daisy's screening for a
Oh,
theater, which was very cool. You
yes.
do other,
All-time classic weird movie, right?
yeah, you do other screenings
Yeah, so
specifically
I do.
for Brattle. So what's up?
Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff. I'll try to summarize. Um, so the daisies thing specifically, this is only my second time doing this, but I've started doing what are called seminars. It's just like a lecture, a short lecture before a film at the Coolidge Corner Theater, which is in Brookline, Massachusetts, which is near Boston, but not the same thing. Um, they're, beautiful old art house theater, and they have local, usually like academics can come and give like talks about different films they're screening. So they program the films and then they invite different people to come and talk about them. I myself am not an academic, but I was lucky to be asked. I just love daisies. And I love the director Vera Kitalova and I love the Czech New Wave. So I was able to make a presentation and give a fun talk about just kind of all that history and all the weirdness that was going on in that time period before the Soviets came in and kind of crushed their film industry. But yeah, that's the new thing I'm starting to do. And then I work at the Brattle Theater. I'm a head projectionist. But I also sometimes host screenings there through a group I have called Strictly Prohibited, which is like a screening group where we showcase movies made by like women and trans and non-binary filmmakers. And so periodically we'll host special screenings at the Brattle and we'll have like discussions and sometimes it's for a theme. We did like a Women's History Month series where we showed like Frida and Professor Marston and the Wonder Women and like kind of stuff like that. So that's a separate thing. But and then I also make zines about women directors and sort of film and pop culture history. So it's kind of all sort of connected, but also all sort of separate.
All right.
That's the
And
gist.
yeah, and for strictly prohibited, can men show up or are they?
So in a public screening, totally. Like when we host up at the Brattle, it's anyone who wants to come. We want to share these movies with everybody. But our main goal, basically, we were inspired by going to a lot of bad Q&As where like usually annoying guys would be like, hello, comment, not question. You know who I'm talking about. So when we host our discussions, our general policy is that we're like, yeah, we're so happy that you're all here and we all want to like watch these movies and talk about them. But we encourage people who aren't, we encourage like cis men to kind of just not necessarily be forward in the conversation section of it. Like they can listen to other people's questions and opinions first. That way they're not like leading the conversation is kind of the way that we approach it. Just to kind of like prioritize other voices basically that maybe don't always get prioritized in that type of environment.
All right. Excellent. And do you have anything coming up? Any screenings of particular interest coming up in the near future?
Jeez, I don't think I have anything I can like announce. Sorry. I am in the middle of doing some cool stuff. None of it's like ready yet. I'm hoping to, I'm hoping to do more of those seminars at Coolidge Corner Theater, and possibly classes, but nothing's really finalized yet. And Strictly Prohibited, we need to work on what our next Brattle screening will be. But I'm sorry, I don't have anything concrete.
Oh, no problem with us. Giles, do you have any quick questions in the,
Oh,
for Alex specifically?
gosh. No, this
Okay, if
is
you don't.
All
uh,
right. How about a restaurant to eat at?
oh, that's right, Alec. We can get
In
that.
near me.
Yeah, in a minute. Yeah.
Oh geez, what's my favorite restaurant? My favorite restaurant around here is just changed its name. It's called I think it's called Sakura now. It used to be called Oh Ginger. It's in Davis Square in Somerville, Massachusetts. It's a great like they have sushi and Japanese food, but they also have like, Chinese kind of fusion stuff. And they have this amazing martini called an apple pear martini. And it's delicious and it's bright green and I love it. And it's right outside the Somerville Theater, another of my favorite historic theaters in the area. So I always go there before I'm seeing a movie at the Somerville Theater.
Excellent. And Somerville, not Boston, but we will be back in a
Also not
moment.
Boston. I'm gonna be real with you. I almost never go to Boston. They don't have good movie theaters there, and that's the main thing I do.
What I remember my
And they're a
younger
little
sister
far from where I
talking
live.
about her college days is, yeah, she'd agree with you not to generally not bother with Boston.
Yeah, I kind of have everything I need in Cambridge and other surrounding areas. I live in Arlington, which is next to Cambridge, but I myself have a movie theater down the street from me called the Capitol. They don't do as much rep, but they have a lot of, I saw Sinners there. They get like new movies, and they have one of the best ice cream shops in the area. So why would I go to Boston?
And before we come back to talk about Reanimator, I have just about a minute and a half. I'm going to go ahead and make a movie recommendation specifically for Giles that I think Alex will back me up on. The Surfer. The Surfer.
Oh.
Oh, yes. I dug The Surfer. Yeah.
Giles is a big Nick Cage fan, but doesn't tend to see first run movies in theaters. So this is one
I
for
That's
believe that
fair. I
is.
mostly saw it because I was working. Oh, just I was working a film. We showed it at the Boston Underground Film Festival, and I was working, so I got to watch it that way. But it is a good theater movie if you get a chance. I think the atmosphere and everything is helped by theater experience.
Okay. Well, I do have a weekend coming up where I'll have access to an automobile. So,
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I really
Could
like the
be a good thing,
soundtrack.
way to use your car. Yes, the sound design in general and just the
yeah.
like vibes. You like feel that hot sun beating down on you. It's a good like atmospheric type of movie.
Well, I think I was convinced
And a
before
great Cage performance.
either of you even mentioned it. So, yes, it's a new sold here.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you'll dig it.
Let's come back and talk about Reanimator in depth when we do. So, hello, and we are back after a little bit of technical difficulties, which hopefully we have sorted out. And during my difficulty phase, I had asked Alex a question she started to answer and then broke up, but that was the question about being a projectionist and what that entailed in the modern age. And her answer was cut off, so she's going to start again from the beginning.
Yeah, so I am a film projectionist. I also do digital. Basically, the term projectionist kind of depends what kind of theater you work at, because of course many theaters only run digital or they only do film in certain scenarios. The Brattle Theater is a single screen theater, art house theater that does a mixture of digital and film because we have like rep series. We show new films, like new indies and international films. We run film festivals, and we'll do like 4K releases, including of a certain horror movie that we showed recently. But we do run a lot of film. It's very expensive, largely to ship. And it's also, it's a pretty specific technical skill. Like we have a few projectionists who can run film, but it's also not something that everyone can do. So some theaters have some people I think who just do digital and other people who do film. It takes a really long time to train on film, and it only kind of works for a certain kind of person who cares about something that most people wouldn't take the time to really spend all their mindset on. But I really love doing it. We run mostly 35. I sometimes do 16 millimeter for like special experimental programs. You guys are probably like that. We run like weird abstract film on 16 sometimes. But we don't do 70 millimeter just because our theater isn't set up for it, largely because of our size. We're kind of small. But we're also the only rear screen projection theater in the country, possibly in the world. We're not really sure. So that also makes my job as a projectionist is actually different than it is for most people because I'm doing everything backwards.
Hmm,
I'm behind the screen and I'm projecting into a mirror.
hmm.
And yeah, it's kind of wild. I'm used to it. To me, it's normal because it's the main booth I've worked in. But most other, when I see another projectionist working in another theater, I'm like, oh, right, everything's different. And honestly, it's a little bit, I think, easier sometimes. You can just see stuff. I'm basically like looking into a bright light, like the light of the projector shines back into my eyes when I'm trying to look for my changeovers. And I don't know. I can't, everything's complicated basically because of the rear screen.
Wow, that's some weird, wild stuff. Um,
Are there benefits to this style?
Yeah, it's a In my opinion, yes. Largely, it's for space reasons. The way our building is, and it's been converted over time, and there's like a restaurant in there. Lots of stuff has changed over time. There's no place to put a booth as it currently stands. A normal one that's behind, right? So we can fit and we can show film because of the space behind the screen.
Yeah.
And then it also makes our booth is bigger than usual. We have a little bit more room to maneuver. The setup is weird. One of the things I like about it, this is very specific, but basically, the way that most film projection would work from a normal booth is the way the film is like masked, like the kind of space that's covering the film
Mm.
is done in the projector. It's called an aperture plate. And so it's kind of cut the way it needs to be cut. And when you see it on screen, stuff is kind of closed off the way it should be. But a lot of film actually has way more picture than what you're meant to see. Like a lot of films were shot in what would be called full frame when they're meant to be widescreen, right? They're meant to be like 185. So on the film itself, I have a big picture and then I'm using masking to cut it off. But because I'm standing behind the screen and the masking is in the front of the screen, I see the whole picture. So I see boom mics all the time in like half the movies I project. It's kind of hilarious to me. I just play a fun, it's like I play a fun game just to myself of Spot the Boom Mic. I'm watching like Marie Antoinette in Versailles and she's in her big wig and there's a bunch of boom mics just swinging above her head. And I just see like more of the picture than you'd normally see. So that's just kind of a little thing that I
Huh.
find personally entertaining.
Oh, no.
Where even a projectionist might see that on the film if they're looking at it, but when they're projecting from a normal projection booth, it would all be cut off. So you kind of only have that experience in a rear projection booth typically. So, but no one knows. It's my fun little secret.
That's bizarre because I was actually going to ask you about boom mics. So
Oh,
you
really?
my
I've seen a lot of my time.
all right. Well, but
Um,
let's get into Reanimator. Well, I'm
yes,
still. Um,
always ready.
we'll first let Giles describe this promotional image of the
Yeah,
set.
with pleasure. This is possibly the tastiest promotional image I've come across in a fairly long history of promotional images by now. This is the ultimate limited edition box set. This, I believe, is the Uber. This is like the best. This is for all the super fan persons out there who are going to go gaga for. Well, I'll start from the left here with a very cool little bonus for the avid fan. This is a bobblehead doll of Dr. Hill as being held by Dr. Hill. The good doctor's proper head is gripped between the two hands of the surgeon-clad figure, and above, if memory serves correctly, is the sort of cobbled together facsimile that he whipped up to pass off as not so headless as he had become. So that's there, and I'm guessing the facsimile head bobbles, not Dr. Hill's head proper, which is in its bloodied, mouth agape form that fans of the film are going to be familiar with. Going now to the right, we have what looks like a nice little insert, which I'm going to guess is specific to this and talks about, let's see, I suppose I got an information thing here, but it's a little booklet that says Re-Animate 40R, as this is the 40th anniversary of the motion picture in question. In center, I'm going to guess, is the case for all the goodies, save, I'm guessing, the bobblehead. And to the right of that looks like a rather comprehensive tome, which is doubtless a collection of compelling essays, remarks, and full technical specs. Alex is showing that off on her screen there. And in front, judging from the type of pictures and the number and the size, I bet fans are going to enjoy the 5 lobby cards that are going to be included with this ultimate limited edition box set of Re-Animator, which is available for pre-order.
Oh, it's out.
Oh, it's out. It's available now. And looking at the website for Ignite Films, which is providing this lovely gift for yourself or another, they still have the super duper set. So snap that up while you may.
Yeah, and it's offered in like four different versions, so you can almost pick a la carte which special features you want, from the cheapest,
Yeah, I think
just a
that
Blu-ray to this giant set.
yeah, the gist is the really special thing for this ultimate, as you just described, is the bobblehead.
Mhm.
Whereas the next level down, the deluxe, has everything but the bobblehead pretty much, and then the next level down has like I think just the movie, as opposed to it doesn't have the book of essays, and I don't think it has the lobby cards if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's which I think is great. Like I don't collect as much as, of these special edition films as I'd like to, just largely for financial reasons, So I appreciate that they had a lot of different options to suit different, different wallets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess one thing I'll add, rereading it now, it caught my eye is some lucky fans will discover green reagent in their order. If you're one of them, you'll receive an exclusive signed poster by Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton, Bruce Abbott, and Brian Una, plus a special Re-Animator gift pack from our friends at Middle of Beyond. So that is, it's a $130 outlay, but golly, if there isn't a lot of stuff going with it and a chance for something sweet.
Okay, so
I like the
go
new
ahead.
artwork a lot, so I think that poster would be cool.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I just like the poster would be awesome, so I like that they have that too.
So Alex, what was your involvement in this set for the?
I contributed one of the essays to the book, which is the little black what you see here. It's a nice hardcover,
Mm.
and it has several contributors. I wrote a piece about Jeffrey Combs, but there's also an essay about Barbara Crampton by Katie Reif. Um, there's a piece by Brian Yosna, who was kind of leading the project, and especially the book. And then I believe there's a piece by Scout DeFoya, who's the person who hired me. And then Will Sloan also and Ben Sachs also wrote pieces. So it's truly it's not a booklet. It's really a book. You can see it's like pretty
Oh, yeah.
substantial. Yeah. But yeah, I just did the Jeffrey Combs part because that's kind of my specialty.
Um,
So here you can see you can see him looking cool with his sunglasses there.
is it just a general biography, or do you have a specific take on him with the movie?
So I I was pretty much tasked. It was just write about Jeffrey Combs. It was it was like wasn't given a ton.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's not
Yes,
about
ma'am.
him in Reanim. Oh, are you right? I kind of, fuck. Are you losing me?
Try again.
I'm gonna chat.
Okay.
Yeah, sound.
Alex,
Am
go out and come back in.
I like moving around weirdly? Yes. Okay. This was fine before. Oh my God, so
Yeah.
frustrating.
Mm.
BRB.
Okay. Um, in the meantime, Giles, we're not going to restart, but uh, some thoughts about Reanimator in general while we wait for
Yeah,
Alex to.
yeah. I personally stumbled across Re-Animator. I believe there was a section of my sophomore year of high school where I rented a movie a day for, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks. And among them was Re-Animator. And that certainly introduced me not just to Jeffrey Combs as an actor who I thought was very interesting because I had seen him in The Frighteners prior to seeing him in Re-Animator. And so this was very much part of my own introduction and development of a taste for weird movies way back in my mid to late teen years. And one of those serendipitous things, and that Jeffrey Combs was exactly the right age and the right kind of person to do this particular role to what I consider performative perfection here.
Good. So what I want to say, I guess, about Reanimator is it's kind of the leading edge of what you'd consider the modern horror comedy, right?
Hmm.
So in '85, along with Return of the Living Dead, is the other film I think of just as belonging to this specific category. What had kind of happened is it seems that horror had gotten to where it could. This is as much as it could shock people, right? So uh, it had been building since the late '60s through the '70s and '80s, getting more and more shocking and graphic, and now there was nothing left to do but go to comedy, and so they did. Alex will be a little bit delayed, it sounds like. She's restarting her whole computer. So yeah, so this is I think of this as they had kind of taken horror as far as they could in the shock direction and needed a new angle for horror. And so black comedy was the new addition. And that has kind of continued to be a standard element of a lot of horror films since the mid 80s.
Yeah.
But I believe it started here and with, as I said, Return of the Living Dead. I'm not sure if I said that correctly, but before.
Yeah. Return. Is that I'm,
The
I know.
unauthorized sequel to Night of the Living Dead that
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I am I know any number of horror writer and film buff types, but am woefully underversed in that particular genre. So I have heard of Return of the Living Dead, but it is among the very, very, very many horror movies I haven't seen.
was directed by Dan O'Bannon, who was a writer, mainly a horror writer, and that was his first um, directorial deal, as I recall. It was very revolutionary um, and was set here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh,
The rare horror movie set in Louisville, Kentucky, although I don't believe that they actually filmed almost anything in Louisville, Kentucky.
oh, okay. I was going to ask if you've taken the little tour of the exciting spots.
I've been to the cemetery. They did do location shooting at the cemetery, which is probably why it was chosen for our very um, atmospheric and cemetery. And we're
I live,
still, oh, go ahead.
oh, it's just a reminiscence. Speaking of cemeteries, I live quite near one that is closed off to the public, unfortunately. It's just a few miles from my house, and it is considered one of the seven gateways to hell, one of the two in the US, with the other five being scattered elsewhere around the globe. And I've seen, yeah, photographs from someone who was able to go in for one reason or another, and it's like, oh, it's a pity I can't wander around this macabre thing, but I suppose they want to keep out, you know, the ne'er-do-wells who might flock toward such a famous landmark there. But I guess, yeah, going back to Re-Animator, yeah, is the comedy horror thing. I can't think of an earlier one, and it's much more likely for me to have seen a comedy horror than a horror horror. And I guess I might go out slightly on a limb saying that Brain Dead / Dead Alive might be the peak of that particular subgenre, with its prodigious amounts of comedy and violence crammed in 80 some odd minutes.
Yeah, I'd buy that. I'd accept that as a peak. Um, so, in regards to, let's point out, Alex has shared, although she's not here now, we're still waiting for her to reconnect. She has shared some of her artwork, a specific portrait of Jeffrey Combs, and here she comes.
Fingers crossed.
And this other little piece of art.
Hello again.
I'm back. Okay, sorry.
All right.
Okay, here we are.
Yeah, you
What
were
a
telling us about.
strange.
My essay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so my essay about Jeffrey Combs. It is, of course, there's a lot of it is talking about Re-Animator, but it's really meant to be a sort of an overview of his career in general and just why I love him as an actor and a little bit of biographical, kind of career history. I also interviewed him 2 times over the phone and was able to just hear some insight into Re-Animator and his experiences there, but also just kind of his work in general and some of the other projects he'd been involved in and his thoughts on acting. Um, so I tried to make it pretty. I definitely went over my word limit, because I had so much I wanted to say, but I tried to make it more encompassing, just kind of general appreciation for him as a performer, while also kind of focusing specifically on why I love him in Reanimator so
Mm,
much.
mm. Reanimator was certainly his first big feature I noticed from him. Do you know of anything he did before Reanimator? That...
So yeah, he I know everything about Jeffrey Combs. I won't go too deep. But well, basically, he got his start on the stage. He was in theater for many years, and I think you can kind of tell just the way he. I think he has a kind of his diction and his kind of
Oh, yes.
theatricality of his performances. And he was trying to make it in Hollywood for a while, and it wasn't really working. But he did do a few things, including probably most notably is like Frightmare. That was like his first real movie role. If you know that film. It's from the early 80s. I'm blanking on the director, but it's a bunch of kids at a spooky house and there's a weird guy. It's just a
1983, Norman Thaddeus Vane.
yes, I knew it was somebody with a cool name and I was just spacing on it. But yeah, so that kind of was what sort of broke him in like in a larger role. And then he had a few small roles in other films, but he was an agent kind of saw him on stage and that's kind of what led to him getting more seriously considered for film roles. And Stuart Gordon, the director, came from theater as well. He wasn't a movie director. So it kind of fits that I think he had a lot of more theater related people working on Reanimator because that's kind of where he was coming from. So I feel like Jeffrey Combs is a really good fit in that way too.
And they certainly had a strong collaboration with Jeffrey Combs was in all the Reanimator movies. He was in the next movie, the H.P. Lovecraft adaptation. That's name is escaping me right now.
From Beyond.
Beyond or Castle
And,
Freak?
and then
From
some
Beyond
other,
was next, but also Castle Freak, yes.
yeah, Castle Freak and the Poe adaptation, the Pit and the Pendulum. So
Yes.
lots of collaborations there with him.
Yeah, he and Gordon, he had only, I think he and Gordon got along really well and creatively were had different, I think like different working styles. He definitely described Gordon as being kind of could be kind of stubborn, kind of stuck in his ways. And I think was also I mean the thing with Reanimator with Stuart Gordon is that he was basically learning film techniques while he was making it because he had come from this theater background. So there were some times where he would want to do something, want to stage something, and the cinematographer would have to be like, we can't physically do that, So it was a little bit of a learning process, I think. But I know that he and Combs got along quite well, and obviously had I think he had a lot of respect for Gordon and for his vision, and of course, that led to them working together often. And I think Gordon definitely had Combs in mind for those roles when he was developing those other projects because he just fits so well.
So one of the things we talked about when you were off screen was the mixture of comedy and horror and how Reanimator was kind of a trailblazer in that regard. Did your conversations with Jeffrey Combs get to any particular insights in the way you mix horror and comedy?
So yeah, it's interesting because obviously, I agree. I would consider Reanimator a blend of horror and comedy for sure. But when they were making it, they weren't thinking of it as a comedy. I think they definitely, of course, I'm not saying it's accidentally funny at all. I think that they were treating it as a real horror film. They weren't trying to be funny. They weren't like forcing the humor. It kind of just came out in the way that the performances came out, and in some of the obviously they have these over the top visuals. They kind of pulled out the comedy from the more serious script, but Gordon definitely approached it as a serious horror film in the way that he was, the blocking and the visuals and the staging and everything. And I think for me, I think and Combs wasn't like trying to be funny, but I think he did just see the humor in the character and the way he has this unique line delivery. And he kind of has there's a little bit of impish glee in the way that he plays the character, and that's where a lot of the humor comes from. So I think one of the reasons it works so well as a horror comedy is that it wasn't trying to be funny, and it is a legit horror movie. A lot of horror comedies are kind of comedy first because they don't
Mhm.
want to scare the people there for comedy, but it's a legit horror movie, obviously. I mean, the gore is definitely there, the effects are there, and there's some real moments of, like the deaths mean something. I think that the characters are really well developed and everything. So you can take it seriously while also appreciating that it's funny.
How about camp? Was there any sense that they were deliberately camping a little?
That I don't think so. I think it comes a little bit from having this kind of experimental theater background. I feel like that just sort of naturally comes into play a bit. And so they were coming more with maybe theater tropes versus mo horror movie tropes, And I know there is, I won't go into it. There's already a lot of writing and kind of discussion about the queer aspects of the film, which of course can relate to having a camp like vibe, which I definitely see and am, I get it, but I don't think a lot of that was intentional. I think it just kind of is, a little bit is the time period and the way that some of that stuff kind of comes out when you watch it today.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Before moving on, I do want to make sure we get to talk about this artwork that we're sharing here. Can you see it, Alex?
I can, yeah. So
Okay.
I was really happy. So I don't write that much anymore. So I was honored to be asked to write this essay. But of course, if I had the chance to do artwork, that was also something that, I wanted to do. And so my friend who works for Ignite and had it brought me in on the project had known me as an artist and has hired me to do work for them in the past. So when I was like, hey, could I do a little portrait of Jeffrey Combs? He was like, sure, we'll see if we can use it. And then it's actually so this is from one of my favorite little parts in the movie is when he breaks the pencil to piss off Dr. Hill. I just think it's so funny, and it's a dialogue-free, almost slapstick kind of humor. And I wasn't even sure how much they'd use it, but it actually has a full page spread in the book, which I was pretty
Mm,
excited by when I got my copy.
excellent.
There's a lot of great images in general in the book. It's a big, nice, like full color spread.
And then
But yeah.
this other image, can you see the new image?
Yes. So I also, so another thing that Ignite has periodically hires me for is to make their website banner for what is called The Maze, which is part of Ignite Film's website where they post like essays and videos and kind of behind the scenes stuff for their releases. So this was used to headline that. I think it's probably still up as they kind of talk about different things related to their release. And I just wanted to do something with the opening scene of the film because that's one of my favorite opening scenes of any movie, with Herr Gruber, um, and just with his eyes about to explode and everything. So I thought they'd be kind of fun to work that into Wes glasses.
Okay, so I'm kind of actually confused about what Ignite Films is. I mean, this is like the first I've heard of them. Kind of new on the
They're
scene. What do you can you tell us about Ignite?
Yeah, they're fairly new. So they put out a few releases that were a little bit, I think, just not as big deals, but they did the story of G.I. Joe, and they did their first release was the original Invaders from Mars restoration a couple years ago was them. And my understanding is that they've been around. Basically, it came out of an earlier company. That they have a large what's the word? They have like a large collection of like film rights that they're working on developing releases for. So I think they've actually been in the business for a long time, but only in the past few years are they kind of on the scene as a boutique film label. So this is only, I believe, their third release. But they definitely have more coming up, and it's in partnership with Eagle Rock Pictures is a new company that's like linked with some of the same people that was formed to do Re-Animator in conjunction.
Oh,
But yeah,
great.
keep an eye out because they do very good and uh, detail oriented work. I would say with the amount of stuff they
Oh,
did for this release.
Giles, do you have any questions specifically about Re-Animator or specifically for Alex?
I was just thinking, yeah, you were mentioning the camp elements, and yeah, that does crystallize a bit for me because I saw Reanimator for the first time probably in my mid-teens. I want to say I rented it from East Side Video, which has not existed for 25, 30 years. And yeah, there's a certain, and I also did amateur theater in high school through college, and yeah, I can definitely see now that there's a certain um, excess in performance that is associated with theater because you need to do that much more because you're alive, you're in front of a large group of people with different
Right.
rows of seats, and so there's an extra that goes on there. And yeah, I'm glad you edified so some edification here about the background, certainly for Jeffrey Combs, and that yeah, there's a guy who he's acting for a crowd at least as much as he's
Exactly.
acting for a camera, and
Yeah, and
spending a
I
lot of
think he does both really well. I actually saw him live once. He has I won't go into too much, but he has a one man show about Edgar Allan Poe
huh?
called Nevermore, which he developed with Stuart Gordon and I believe Dennis Paoli, who was a co-writer and is a Gothic literature professor. Side note, but
Makes sense.
he worked on Re-Animator as well. Um, so he had been touring with that, and I got to see him perform at the Somerville Theater
Hmm.
several years ago, and it was great. And you could really see he's in his element on stage, But the pandemic kind of curtailed
Hmm.
some of the touring. So I'm not sure if he'll get back to that, but yeah, he definitely, I think, even though he kind of stopped doing a lot of stage work when he got into film, you can definitely see he's at home there. And I think he brings that theatricality to his film roles in a way that I
Yeah, because
really
I'm actually
love.
reminded now. Yeah, he was in the Masters of Horror anthology, which is
Yes, which was also Stuart Gordon, and
I
I
own
believe,
one volume of that, and it's his Edgar Allan Poe performance
yeah,
back in
that's kind of where the stage show developed out of. That collaboration kind of was like, let's do more. And they all love Edgar Allan Poe and just kind of wanted to sort of pay tribute in a way. I know he's known for the Lovecraft stuff, which I totally also like, but I think he really, I think all those collaborators, they really align themselves a little bit more with Poe in terms of his story and his influence.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've learned more and more about Poe these past 5 years and rereading a bunch of his stuff. And he's baseline interesting, but he's a lot more interesting than most people will initially know, or think, considering if you know just the famous short stories for Poe, okay, that's more than interesting enough. But then if you dig a little deeper into that, so I can understand the fascination certainly on Combs's part and
Yeah.
the other individuals there. Um, and I guess yeah, the other observation that just occurred to me now is that you have a sort of odd couple vibe in Reanimator because
Yes.
you have
Which
the
you mean
particular.
between Bruce Abbott and Jeffrey Combs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just sort of like a good old American, yeah, a bit of a nerd because he is in a medical program. It's like a solid, all could be in a B action movie if you wanted to be,
Right,
and
right. He's tall, handsome guy. Yeah.
and Jeffrey Holmes just sort of crunching himself down into this very strange
Just
basement
his
dwelling
weird
individual,
roommate.
which I guess I would be interested to maybe look at different iterations of the script as they may have developed from like the first thoughts and then what was actually shot and see what evolution they had
Yeah,
with
I
the
mean, the one thing
relationship
I do
between the two.
know, it was the original version was going to be a little bit more about have a little bit more with Bruce Abbott with sorry, his character's name is Dan, with Dan and Meg, like their romance was more heavily like developed. And sort of him as being like more of the sort of typical leading man. But I also know, I believe it was originally developed, if I remember correctly, for television, the Reanimator, I'm pretty sure.
Hmm.
And then it kind of, so it went through various iterations in general. And there's a lot of things that were cut, and the release has some of that extra stuff too. You can kind of see there were elements to the story that were cut from the theatrical release because Gordon wanted them cut out,
Hmm.
but then they were added back in by Charles Band with various iterations. The movies had a few different versions come out, and the release kind of covers all that. You can kind of see different facets of the story and kind of pick and choose how you want to. I don't want to spoil, but yeah, there's some interesting stuff that like is not in the main film that I was like, oh, that gives me a new twist on what I thought was happening in this movie. So it's kind of interesting. It kind of opens it up in a way.
Yeah, there was an earlier special release that I believe you ported over, or they ported over most of those. It includes the made for TV, the TV edit for the movie, which I've seen
Yeah,
as
so
well.
essentially
That
what happened
focuses.
was yeah, that basically the movie was unrated in its original release, which meant you couldn't put it out on video, which meant that when they wanted to have it in VHS and on TV, Charles Band kind of yanked it away and he added in all this, he cut out all the rated R stuff or the unrated stuff, right? And then he added in scenes that like storylines, the subplots that had been cut, padded out. So some people were like, oh, this is like it's not, Stuart Gordon didn't want that stuff in the movie. So it's kind of unfortunate, but it does offer you another angle on the story if you like want that kind of extra stuff. And sorry, I know we're out of time.
Yeah, and with that, we're pretty much running out of time. And so this is a great work on another box set, Alex, so we can get you on again to talk about it.
Hire me. Hello, people. Hire me for another box set, especially if it's Jeffrey Combs related. I would also accept Brad Dourif, another fave.
Okay.
But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Giles. Thanks, Alex. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but we still got a lot of good stuff in here. So we'll see you next week. No guests scheduled, but we'll talk about the weird movies of the week and see you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Weird. Yeah, I guess that is the word for it. Weird.